What up, though? And welcome to the Corrective Felon Podcast with your host, me, Inspired the Block, aka the Lone Wolf, or simply known to my friends and family as Corey. I want to thank y'all continuously for those that tap in with your boy time in and time out. For the rest of y'all, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, that like button. Get in the comments. Tell me what the fuck y'all think about the conversation that we having. And make sure y'all share it so the information can be circulated through the metaverse. And also, man, turn that notification bell on so when I drop all my shit, you already know what time it is. But once again, thank you. Welcome, regardless of the platform that you hear this on. Thank you, and I appreciate y'all fucking with your boy. If you rock with me continuously, if you one of the normals, individuals that fuck with me, then you already know here on the Corrective Felon Podcast, we have conversations that has substance to it. There's a lot of bullshit going on in the world, especially in the entertainment world, sports world. Anytime, anywhere where there's sport and play, you can find a bunch of bullshit. But what's not being had in the country is conversations that's going to bring about a change in the country that we live in. And that's America. So we had those conversations on here. And if you one of my regulars, then you know that recently we've been having a conversation about formerly incarcerated individuals in the Second Amendment. And it was a lot of feedback. People gave me pretty much what they thought, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And one of the collective consensus or collective ideas when it comes to formerly incarcerated people and their Second Amendment, a lot of people don't like formerly incarcerated individuals to exercise that right. And one of the reasons why is because there's a stigma regarding what people go to prison for. Now, usually people base their opinions or their ideas from the emotional perspective of what a person went to prison for. For some reason, the crack dealer or the drug dealer is somewhat different than the guy to go to prison for armed robbery. Or the petty thief who can't keep his hands in his pocket is different from the person that goes to prison for murder. So what I'm trying to say is that people really believe that if you go to prison for a violent offense, you're less likely to commit more crimes or be caught up in the recidivism in America than those who go to prison for violent offenses. And the conversation that I want to have with y'all this time around is to show y'all that that's a myth, and that the likelihood of somebody that went to prison for a violent offense is justifiable for them not exercising their Second Amendment right, based on the idea is that people with violent offenses is a a repeated offender is some real bullshit. Okay, now what I want to do is say this here, and if you fuck with me and you rock with me, you already know that I went to prison at 17. I didn't get out till I was 35 years old. I went to prison for a violent offense, and now, inshallah or God willing, depending on how you practice and pray, that I'll be 48 years old this year. Like, I'm waving at 50. Me and 50 really kind of looking at each other. And we know that psychologically there's a difference from somebody who commits an offense as a juvenile and as an adult. I think that in America, we haven't come to terms with understanding that there's a difference in the person. So usually what I do is, when it comes to the Second Amendment or a lot of different advantages in America that formerly incarcerated people should have, this is something that I fight for. You already know. I did a TEDx talk about it. I write about it in blogs. I talk about it continuously as a social advocacy work and idea. Like, I believe in that. I believe that people who go to prison and return to society should have the same, at some point, should have the same advantages as everybody else that didn't go to prison, with the exception of those who went to prison for a sexual offense. Now you may wonder, Inspire the Block or Corey or the Lone Wolf, why you bias towards people that go to prison for sexual offenses compared to those that go to prison for robbery and murder? Well, for one, this is here, and this is my main reason. That when you go to prison for a sexual offense, that's from a strong desire from something that you like to do. This is a part of your sexual experience that you like to do, right? If you're a pedophile, the ideal of a grown woman don't appeal to you. It doesn't attract to you. This child does. And for those that actually like to force themselves upon an adult woman or an adult woman, once again, this is a psychological aspect of what you like to do. So I think that you have a lot more to prove when it comes to those being or having their rights restored that was once formerly incarcerated than other people. That's number one, right? Because you like to commit these offenses, this kind of sexual act you love to perform. So therefore, there's some psychological things in your head that has to be evaluated when it comes to you having the right to exercise your Second Amendment. If you don't like that analogy, I don't give a fuck. That's how I feel about it. Number two, usually when a person goes to prison for sexual assault for a very long time, it's because they have multiple offenses when it comes to this act. When I was in prison in the Michigan Department of Corrections, if you ran into somebody that was in prison for sexual assault, whether it was on a minor or an adult, this usually was their third offense, and you realize, oh shit, damn, you got a 20 ball, you got a quarter, and that's because they've done it more than once in their criminal history, compared to those who go to prison for, let's say, robbery. When you go to prison for robbery, on your first offense, you're going to go for some time. Murder, you're going to go for some time. You're not going to go get a slap on the wrist, go to prison, and then come home for murder. In most cases, that does not happen. Once again, it's based on the circumstances. Any type of assault, if you go to prison, you usually go for a nice amount of time compared to those who get caught with drugs, those who have a gun charge, or those who have some kind of vandalism or property damage, right? If there's not a victim involved, usually their first couple of offenses, they don't get a lot of time. But compared to those that go to prison for murder. And so people believe that, they have this idea that if you go to prison for a violent offense, the chances are you coming out and reoffending is greater than those that don't go to prison for a violent offense. Now, what I want to do for y'all is give y'all, once again, like I said, some information. If you follow me, you fuck with me. I did a TEDx talk back in 2023. You can just YouTube it, type in my name, Corey Frazier TEDx talk, and it pops right up. You can also look at my playlist. I believe I have it there. But I've also have clips of it on all my social media platforms. So if you want to check it out, you're more than welcome. Once again, just go in your search bar on YouTube and type in Corey Frazier TEDx Talk. It should pop right up. But one of the things that I did on there was gave some statistical information, because people love statistics when it comes to formerly incarcerated people or individuals and recidivism, and the likelihood of them reoffending based on the information that they get from various agencies throughout America. Now, what I'm going to do is give you the same information that I gave y'all in my TEDx talk, but I'm going to give it from a different perspective. And the information, or the source of the information in which I am giving you this information from, is from the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics. Once again, you can you can go on Google, type it in, the information will come up just like that. And back in September of 2021, the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics, released a special report, or the summary of that special report, which reads, Recidivism of Prisoners, released in 24 states in 2008. A 10-year follow-up period from 2008 to 2018. Now, what they did was followed a number of prisoners that was released from 2008 to 2000 or 2018. They followed these prisoners and followed how many times they had been arrested during this 10-year period. Now, to give you a real number on what they did, because once again, statistics, they vary based on how you're using them and how you want to articulate or get across a message based on using this information. Now, in 2008, 409,300 prisoners was released in 24 states in 2008. Out of this, just over 400,000 persons or people released from state prison in 2008, a study sample was used of 73,600 prisoners, right? And what they did was use these 73,600 prisoners out of this 400 or almost 500,000 people that was released in 2008 to come up with their statistics based on recidivism following these people, these formerly incarcerated individuals. And out of these, the sample number, let's be correct about it, not out of the 409,000 people, the sample number of 73,000, they said that 25% of these people over the 24 states in 2008 have been serving time for a violent offense. Another number that they found, let me just go back real quick, just so in case we didn't get that. Out of the sample number of 73,000 people that they were using to represent the 409,000 that was released in 2008, 25% of these people was released with a violent offense. And what they found, here's the astonishing, here's the big idea, here's the myth buster when it comes to people, formerly incarcerated people that had been released from prison in 2008 with a violent offense. They found that 77% of these people with violent offenses were less likely to be arrested for any offense than prisoners released after serving time for other types of offenses within these 10 years. What they found was 77% of these people that was released in 2008 to 2018 with a violent offense, 77% of those people or formerly incarcerated individuals did not commit any type of offense whatsoever in this 10-year span. I even throwed it in Chat GPT. Well, not Chat GPT. Chat GPT. I follow or use FYI services. I think it's the one by Pharrell. And I put that paragraph from the Department of Justice in there, and this is what they said. Absolutely, or it said, the AI. Absolutely, let's break it down. This paragraph is communicating a finding from a study or report on the likelihood of people being rearrested after their release from prison. Here's the essence what it means. Comparison groups. The study specifically compares two groups of people released from prison, those who serve time for violent offenses and those who serve time for non-violent offenses, in parentheses, which could include property crime, drug offenses, etc. Time frame. The period examined is within 10 years after their release in 2008. Primary findings. It states that 77% of the people who were released after serving time for violent offenses were less likely to be rearrested for any offense compared to those who were in prison for non-violent offenses. So, if you picture two groups of former prisoners, one group having committed violent crimes and the other having committed non-violent crimes, the violent offense group was found to be less likely or less frequently rearrested within a decade following their release than the non-violent group. Essentially, this challenges a common assumption that violent offenders are more prone to reoffending. Now, that's an AI, okay? People that go to prison for violent offenses are less likely to commit any crime whatsoever compared to those who go to prison for non-violent offenses. That's just the facts. Those are the statistics. Those are the numbers that you like to use. Not necessarily me, because I know a bunch of people that have been to prison for violent offenses, and I know they ain't committed no crimes whatsoever. Like I know it, and I'm also one of those ones. I haven't reoffended for a violent act whatsoever. And now that leads me to the idea or the principal part of the conversation. Should those who go to prison for violent offenses have the opportunity or the right to exercise their Second Amendment right, especially after 10 years of being released? This is the question that I'm opposing to America. This isn't my first time doing it. I've done this on multiple occasions. After 10 years, the numbers speak for themselves, especially when it comes to those with violent offenses. It does it for people that's been to prison as a whole. The longer that a person stays out, the likelihood of them reoffending, especially after 10 years, is second to none. So let's have this conversation. Should people with violent offenses be banned for life from exercising their Second Amendment right? And now here's another idea, especially the one that I think that really should be had, the conversation that should be had in America, is those whose only conviction resulted when they were a juvenile. That's the next conversation that we're going to have. Should people who've been to prison, they're only, even violent offenses, with the exception of sexual crimes, have the opportunity, if their violent or violent offense was committed when they were a juvenile, should they have the opportunity to exercise the Second Amendment right? Because I believe, once again, that the first law of nature is self-preservation. Everybody should have the opportunity to preserve self, especially if they're in a position where they have to preserve their life compared to someone else's. If their life is in the position to where it seems like it's going to be taken, then they should have the right, like everybody else, to defend it and have the opportunity to have their Second Amendment right. Once again, I gave you the numbers. It's a myth that just because a person went to prison for a violent offense, that does not mean that they're going to come out and commit other offenses. That's a myth buster, because once again, people that go to prison for violent offenses usually serve a lot more time than those that go for non-violent offenses. Hey, it's your boy. Just throwing that shit out there. Let's have this conversation. Once again, these are my ideas, my thoughts. I think that this conversation needs to be had in America, and I think that change needs to be enacted because of that. I really do. Tap in with your boy, time in and time out. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe, like, comment, and share the Correct the Felon podcast, regardless on the platform in which you hear it from. Make sure y'all do the necessary things to get this information out there. It's me, Inspire the Block. I pray that everybody have a blessed day on purpose, and y'all have a blessed one.